What is going on, guys? Ford here, and I decided to bring you a new series on my channel called Tuesday Spotlight. In this series, I'm going to be bringing you some great commentators over to my channel. My first guest tonight is Stonepost34. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's up, guys? Stonepost34 here. If you're not familiar with me, I'm an older gamer. I'm 36 years old. I feature live gameplay, some IRL stuff, some updates on PlayStation and Xbox. But what I want to share with you today is probably my most popular series, and that is Growing Up with Stonepost. And this video you're about to see is about how I bought the ring, how I surprised my wife, we've been married 10 years, and her reaction. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Take care as always. This is Stonepost34. What is up, everyone? Stonepost34 here, bringing you more of Growing Up with Stonepost. And I apologize, it was my 10-year wedding anniversary, and that's what this is going to be about. And my dad just turned 60, so we had a big party, and I have been so busy. We hosted, put all that on. So anyway, this Growing Up with Stonepost will be about how I proposed to my wife. And we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. And couldn't be happier, if you guys are familiar with my channel. 2 wonderful kids, and yeah, things are great. So I want to share with you, this happened over 11 years ago because we've been married for 10. We kind of had a long engagement, and that was fine. We only dated for about 5 or 6 months before I popped the question. Now, I knew I was going to do this pretty early on. In fact, I remember telling my wife one time that I was going to marry her. And I remember she started bawling. I don't think she believed me. So anyway, let's start with the very first thing you need to do. This is what I did. I would recommend it. I have 2 girls, and this better happen when they get married. I called my father-in-law and said, hey, can I take you out? Let's grab a beer. I just want to talk to you. And we had a great relationship. We played golf a lot, did a lot of different things together. And he's like, yeah, no problem. Let's go out. And he, come to find out, he knew what was going on. Of course, he did not tell my wife that we were going out to grab a drink, but we went out and sat down, and I said, well, I want to know if I could have your daughter's hand in marriage. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yes, I'm sure. And it was kind of a joke because he always gave me a hard time about it. He said, she's your problem now, and she's not a problem at all, but he always jokes about that. So anyway, got his permission, and then now I have to set the stage. I kind of wanted to make it special, and you let me know if it was special or not, but wanted to make it special and try to figure out something different to do. So I had to get the ring. And at that time, I just started a different company in the real estate business, and I was mildly successful. But I was just not flush with cash, so I went on a search for a ring, and it led me all over the place. I had a friend whose brother was in the jewelry business. I went to a couple local jewelry shops, all over, trying to find the best deal. Well, the best deal ended up, and this was really early on with the internet, wound up being online. And so I bought the ring online, sight unseen. I became a master of the 3 C's, color, clarity, and carat, and could tell you a whole lot about diamonds. So I found the ring online. The ring was so expensive I had to call and raise my American Express limit because I could not get it. Mind you, it was expensive, and they used the 2-month rule on when you buy rings. It's supposed to be 2 months of your salary, and it was because like I said, I was mildly successful. It was a little bit more than 2 months, but I knew it's what she wanted, and I just wanted to do it right because I knew I'd do better down the road, and just didn't want to have that regret. 10 years into it, that, oh man, I should have got her a better ring. My parents did that. They wound up buying new rings after about 15 to 20 years of marriage because they just didn't have a lot of money when they got married. So I went overboard a little bit, bought this ring. I remember it showed up at the office, and I showed it to one of the gals I worked with, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. It still is a beautiful ring to this day, but I bought it online, and back then that was a little crazy. So anyway, so I have to set the stage. So my buddy Chris, I call him up. I'm like, I want to make this special, and there was this restaurant we always went to. I say we went to as a group. Like I said, mildly successful in my business, so eating out was a definite splurge, and not something that happened on a weekend basis. So usually we'd have friends over, play cards, do stuff like that. So I call him up. I'm like, I want to make this special. I'm not quite sure how to do it, but I have an idea. And he's like, okay. So I tell him the idea, and I'll tell you guys here in a second. And I said, but here's the deal. I don't want her to think, because we never hardly went out, excuse me, to dinner by ourselves. We always went with Chris and his wife. I thought they were married, and his wife. So he's like, okay, well, why don't we do this? We'll plan to go out with you guys this Friday night. And he goes, we'll call you very last minute, almost as you're headed out the door. I'm like, okay, cool. And he said, and we'll cancel. And then you can set this up however you want to, so that there's no red flags, that she's not like, well, why are you taking me out to dinner? Or why is this going on? Or why are we going to this restaurant? So all goes well. They call last minute, and they're like, man, we can't make it. We're sorry, telling my wife. And she's like, doesn't call me. She calls me into the room and says, hey, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, let's go ahead and go. Well, hang on just a second. We better go, because here's what happened. After I got the ring, and this was a couple weeks into it, we planned this whole thing. I actually took the ring, pretty expensive ring by any standards, I think, and I met with the manager of this Italian restaurant that we always ate at, and I said, hey, here's the deal, and I'll tell you how it happened here in a second. But so he had this ring, and I'm like, we better go there, because I'm going to have to get the ring no matter what. So I kind of played it cool, like, yeah, okay, yeah, let's just go ahead and go anyway. So we show up, we have dinner, and we're down. Actually, it's this kind of hole-in-the-wall Italian place, which makes it so much better. And we're in the basement. We're down by the downstairs bar, and the restrooms is where our table's at. So we're sitting down there. We eat, and if you know me, you may not know this, but I'm just not a big dessert guy. Never really liked dessert, and my wife doesn't either. So we finish up. We're just hanging out and finish a glass of wine, and here comes the dessert tray. And my wife's always like, I can't eat anymore, which we can't. And I'm like, I'm stuffed too. And she goes, well, why do they always feel like they need to bring out the dessert tray? Well, on the dessert tray, they come out and they have all these, this different pie, some Italian cakes, some liqueur cakes, and such like that. And in the middle is the ring box. And so they bring it over. They show her the plate, and they're like, well, if you'd like to try a piece of this, or a little bit of the cake, or we have some ice cream. And in the middle, and you should have seen her face, it was priceless. She looked at me, looked back at the plate, looked at the box, and then the waiter, he was awesome. I tipped him huge. He said, or if you'd like to try this. And she started crying. She really did. She started crying, and she opened up the box. I think that was even a bigger surprise, because she knew how much money I made. It wasn't a lot, and I had a couple big deals happen, and she was, needless to say, surprised and shocked. So there was a table of like 6 ladies having a ladies' dinner, and they were next to us, and they kind of saw what was going on, and I got down on one knee. And guys, you got to do that. You got to get down on one knee. I'm sorry. There's no other way to do it. And I said, would you marry me? And she said, of course, absolutely, without a doubt. And the ladies next to us started clapping. And it was just kind of a cool deal. It wasn't, like getting on the big screen at a basketball game or a baseball game or the Kiss Cam or whatever, they have. But it was just a cool deal. It was down to earth. Quite a bit of planning went into it, and I still can't believe to this day that I left that ring with the manager. He could have absconded with it. It probably not worked for a couple months, but they were great. Everything was great. So that's how it went down. We're 10 years, 2 kids, and it doesn't really get much better than this, guys. And I hope that you guys have a similar story, or share it with me if you guys are older in the comments. But it was just a cool deal, low key, down to earth. And we've gone back to the restaurant since. And the funny thing is, we've gone back probably about a couple dozen times. And about half the time, we get set down in that same area where I proposed to her. We never requested, but maybe it was just meant to be. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed growing up with Stonepost. And let me know if you guys have any other ideas, what you'd like to hear. And I really appreciate you watching. And take care as always.